Here's a 7.2 homework assignment where we get into the LSR line. The idea for this problem, I don't know if it's a great one. There's a lot of limits to what you can do with online homework. So for example, it's hard for me to tell you to make a scatter plot. This problem tries to get you to make a scatter plot. So read through here, figure out what your explanatory variable would be and what your response variable would be, and then try your best to plot the points, like physically go in and put in dots here. And I tried it, I did this. They don't have to be perfect. As long as they're close enough, there's a little bit of tolerance built in, and they'll mark it as correct for you. And then once you have all this data, you can come up with your LSR line. So get your LSR line out of your calculator. Hopefully you can get to this screen that you see right here, and then understand how to get your LSR line out of this screen. So you're supposed to round the coefficients to 2 decimal places. So you type them in here, whatever they end up being. Don't forget to put in I guess this should be rounded to 2 decimal places. Don't forget to put in the X, or otherwise it won't like it. Gives you the little preview you have here. I don't know if the X has to be lowercase. Maybe make it lowercase just to be safe. Something like this would be your answer. Then you got your LSR line. And then using that LSR line, you want to predict the mass of an object that's at 50 minutes. Come up with some answer, type it in here, and you're done with this problem. Question 2, kind of similar. I don't know. I guess I like this one a little bit better because you do more stuff. They give you a bunch of data, and they tell you their X's and Y's. I wish they didn't. I wish they just said this was temperature, and this was hot chocolate sales, or whatever context you want to put this into. But you already figured out that this is X and this is Y, hypothetically. And then maybe you can figure out R squared, figure out your LSR line, and use that LSR line to predict the value when X is 50.9. It's worth pointing out they tell you a significance level. They tell you a bunch of stuff that we haven't learned in our class. Just completely ignore that sentence right there. So you're doing 4 of the things that we learned. Actually, I think all 4 come out of this screen right here. Something to be careful of, R squared, they want it to be quoted as a percentage. And I like the way this question is asked. What proportion of the variance in Y can be explained, by the variation in the values of X? I really like that text right there. I wish it only said that. I wish they didn't tell you, oh, by the way, that's R squared, because I would like the student to know that R squared means this highlighted text right here. But what are you going to do? Correlation coefficient goes up here, and the coefficient of determination, which is this thing, goes down here. And make sure you format this as a percentage, okay, but don't type in the percentage sign. I already did that for you. Question 3, here's another LSR. Instead of giving you the data and having you come up with this screen on your calculator, you've typed in enough data. I want to kind of limit that where I can. The data's already put in for you. It's between hours of TV and sit-ups that somebody can do. Okay, fine. And this is what comes out of your calculator, is what they're telling you. And then using this, you're supposed to understand what this all tells you. Assume the correlation coefficient, or assume the correlation is significant, ignore that. Use this to predict the number of sit-ups a person who watches 7.5 hours of TV can do, and round it to 1 decimal place. So that's all you do. You're making a prediction down here with this output. But in order to make that prediction, you need to understand this output. Finally, number 4. So a comment here. What I'm trying to do is, it's very important that the student can interpret the coefficients of the LSR line, that you can look at A and B and explain what A means and what B means in the context of the problem. So that's what this one's asking you about. The only problem is the equation is written here in a different way than I'm going to write it. So what we've been writing is y equals negative 4x plus 3, not 3 minus 4x. 3 minus 4x is the exact same as negative 4x plus 3. It's just written differently. But written in this context, it might confuse you a little bit. Pretend this says y equals negative 4x plus 3, or whatever numbers you have in your version. And then when you have it written there, maybe you can figure out which one is A and which one is B. And then when you have them written as A and B, you can interpret them like we did in the videos. And one of these 4 should work for you. And that's what you're doing in this homework assignment.